here with your game.
Yeah.
It doesn't work at this point, so we can show it. A bit of a technical issue, but we can talk about it. So
sure.
The game you're making is Dead Synchrinicity.
Yes.
And where are you from?
We are from Madrid, Spain.
From Spain?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you working on that game?
Yes, we've been working full-time for a couple of months, although we started with a project about more than a year and a half ago.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit about the story? What is the game about?
Yes, well, it tells the story of Michael, the main character, who has been in a coma for an undetermined amount of time. And once he wakes up suffering an amnesia. He doesn't remember anything about his past. He finds out that the world has suffered a series of catastrophes, earthquakes and so forth, so there are no power sources, no communications. Besides that, there's an illness spreading all over the world that turns people into what they call dissolveds. These dissolved people have special cognition abilities. They know things about the future, they know things about the past, about ancient times. They weren't even born, but they eventually die. They dissolve themselves into blood. That's why they are called dissolved. So Michael has to find out if there's a relationship between the Great Wave and the dissolved illness, where people think there is a relationship, and find who he is, because he doesn't know anything about himself. So that's the story.
That's the story. What can you describe the world a bit more? Is it more like in a cyberspace world, or is it more like a lost tech world, or is it?
Yes, it's like a dystopian world. If I could show you some backgrounds in the computer.
Yeah, you can give it to me later.
Oh, sure, perfect.
Cut it in.
It will be great. The game is divided into two parts. The first part of the game is going to be Dead Synchronicity, Tomorrow Comes Today, and takes place in two main locations, which is a concentration camp, because people who have lost their homes have been moved to refugee camps, but the soldiers have taken the power violently, so they can't leave the camp now. So there are a lot of concentration camps, in fact, and a city which is half destroyed, because of the earthquakes and so forth. And we want to create an atmosphere of destruction, a dying atmosphere. In fact, the characters have been designed with that in mind. There are no curved angles, everything is really straight. The music is going to be quite disturbing. There's going to be a couple of really gory moments, like very bloody. And well, that's the atmosphere we want to create, the look we want to achieve.
Okay, what's the kind of gameplay? Is it third person?
Yeah, it's third person, and the mechanics are quite classical, to call them somehow. Point and click. With the mouse, you can every time you put your mouse onto an object, you see two options: left click or right click, depending on examine or using or talking or whatever. There's an inventory. You can pick up items and use items on other items or hotspots or characters. So the dialogues are tree-shaped, like branched. So, well, quite classical, in fact. We have two features that we would like to point out, which are the dynamic close-ups in dialogues. Every time the dialogue starts, there's a close-up continuum. There's no cut, and it will happen every time there's a dialogue. And what we call the DS backgrounds, because of this great wave phenomena, Michael will see different backgrounds even in the same location, so the background will change. In this first part, Michael's not able to interact with these DS backgrounds because he can't understand what's happening, but in the second part he will, because he will know the origin of these DS backgrounds.
Okay, so you said you're working full-time on the game.
Yeah.
How did you do the funds? How did you fund that?
Yeah, so, well, we have been working full-time just for 2 months, and we have waited until having some funds. In fact, for instance, to pay the artist we have hired. We are 3 brothers in the company, and we have now hired an artist. And we have got a loan from the Spanish government, which is not a grant, it's a loan, so we have to give the money back to the government. And we have put our own money in the game, so that's we probably will have to look for more money other else. We don't know where.
Yeah.
Maybe we're thinking about running a Kickstarter campaign maybe next year in February or March when we have a quite complex demo, and well, that's the goal.
Okay, is it in general? Is it in Spain? Is there something like a governmental program for supporting game development at all?
No, not at all. In fact, the loan we got is just a general loan for startup companies, not video games companies.
Okay.
Next year, there's been announced some regulations to help video game companies. But, well, it's to be seen if now, with all the cuttings in expenses, institutional expenses, it's to be seen if it's true. I hope it is, because they haven't announced specific lines of loans for video games companies, but well, they don't know. Yeah.
So adventure games have a tradition in Spain.
Yeah.
In Spain, we've seen Tenorio Studios. We've also seen some other projects coming up in the last time. Do you think this is a good country for developing adventure games at all?
Yes.
Is there a fan base?
Yes. In fact, I just given a talk about the Spanish point-and-click scene. And as you said before, Michael, there's a very important tradition in adventure games. During the 80s and even the first 90s, the Spanish market allowed companies to survive just selling games in Spain. Now that's impossible. But there are several media specializing in point-and-click adventures. There are at least, we have talked about 6 or 7 very interesting projects of point-and-click adventures being made now in Spain. Tenorio Studios is still making games. So yes, it's a very active community in Spain about point-and-click adventures.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Then what about the retail market? Do you have a retail market in Spain for boxed versions, like we have in Germany? Because we know that in the United States it's completely gone. Also in the UK,
Yeah.
they only have Steam and digital distribution. But what about Spain? Is it?
Well, in Spain, I don't have official real numbers. Okay, so this is my opinion, maybe not the reality itself. But we still have people buying boxed games, especially, of course, especially for consoles. But we still sell PC games boxed. It is true that companies that were keen on distribution are having a hard time because, of course, the sales have dramatically decreased in these last years. Not only because of the digital distribution, but because of piracy. You know, piracy has always been a really serious problem in Spain. So it is true that things are changing right now.
Are you planning to add some sort of copy protection, DRM, to protect your game, or do you think it's better to leave it open? So
we are not sure about that. The truth is that it's a dilemma. We have been advised that maybe not even including a DRM protection, but it's a good idea to include some system that allows you to know how many people have played your game. Not a protection system, but yes, a control system.
Also something like a registration system?
Yeah, something like that. We haven't decided yet. For the Kickstarter campaign, if we launch it, we are thinking about making a limited edition of boxed games, which is always cool to have a box and your game and your leaflet, and yeah, we're very nostalgic about that, so it could be a good idea.
So what do you think, how long will development take for the full game that you want to
Well, we want to release the first part of the game next year, 2014. We're not sure about when exactly, but next year, in fact, we will love to be here in the next edition of Adventure X with the whole first part completed and the second part in development. It would be great.
So you see it as a 2-year project from now on to finish the whole game, and you will release it in 2 parts?
Probably, yes.
Okay. What about translations? Did you think about that?
Well, we know our main goal is the English language. Well, it's a more traditional one, of course. That's nothing new. We will have Spanish language as well, because the game is being written in Spanish. In fact, we'll have to translate it to English. And we know the German market is really important for point-and-click adventures as well. So it's one of our goals as well. Yeah, it all depends on the budget, the time, and all these things that are really annoying for indie people, small people like us. Yeah.
And what about voice acting?
Sorry?
Voice acting? Do you think about
yes,
voice acting?
we would love, of course, we would love to have voice acting all over the game, but it's really expensive. So at least we would like to have voice acting in the dialogues, because, well, we have just heard a talk of Mark Estale, very interesting, and he said something that's really true, that voice acting gives the characters a strong personality. Once you hear a character talking, it's just like, well, it's something different, and it's like a real person somehow.
Okay. So I wish you good luck with your project, and I hope we speak again next year and we see the first part released, and then we can maybe talk about the second one.
It will be great.
Good luck and thanks for the interview.
Thank you for interviewing us.